Hello, everybody. It's the Recruiter Guys, and we're talking hospitality. I'm Gary Turner.
And I'm Carey Stinson.
And we're here with a very special guest today, David Cordua. And we're going to talk some hospitality and find out what David's been doing, is going to do, and he's got some great things to talk about. Hi, David. Welcome aboard. And
Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Gary.
Yes.
Glad to see you. And why don't you introduce yourself to our audience and just kind of let them know what you've been doing and what you're going to do.
Sure. I'm the chef and owner of David and Michael Cordua Events. We're a catering company here in Houston, full service turnkey events company. And we are in the process of opening a location in the Ion here in Houston called the Lymbar. The Ion is, marketed as kind of Houston's first technology hub. It's going to be the home of Microsoft, Chevron Tech, a lot of exciting innovation, think tanks. It is already an exciting place to be, and we're happy to be the hotel lobby meeting place for the entire building in the district.
What's the hotel?
Well, I'm calling it the hotel lobby because
Right. Because
like the lobby bar for the entire.
I got it.
And David, where did the name Limbar come from?
So Limbard Drive was a street that my grandparents moved from Nicaragua to Houston to in the late 70s. So it was my grandmother's house, and my parents bought it from them. I was born and raised there, and our previous restaurants, Churrasco's and America's, were all formed and developed on this really idyllic 1950s street that's still here in Houston in Meyerland. So it's kind of our roots and origin story in the city. There was also another family down the street on Lymbar, the Drubys, that had a chain of Lebanese delis and bakeries that were a big part of our lives. And then the Garcia Pratt's family was on the other end, that had 10 boys, and 3 of them run an urban farm here in the East End in Houston. So we're paying tribute to all these families in this bar concept with the style of cuisine and just really showing our origin and our roots here in the city.
So would you cook at your grandmother's during on the weekend or during the week?
I started cooking there. Yeah, I remember making fried chicken on my own when I was like 6 years old, and obviously my dad was testing out all the recipes for Churrasco's, and we'd have dinner parties multiple times a week as the menu was being developed and the concept was being formed. So really, really great memories from there, and it was and still is a really great community.
I want to get into the Lymbar a little bit more in a minute, but was it the bloodline or the DNA that you went to college for finance and ended up being a chef and a restaurant owner?
The finance and business degree was kind of, I had no other choice. My family was like, if you are going to college, you are studying business. No ifs or buts about it. I didn't have an option there. I was, I had worked as a line cook before college, and I was a musician. I played in bands, but I had to come into cooking on my own. I started working at a hotel in San Jose, California, which is where I went to school, and kind of caught the bug there. Ended up working in Napa and San Francisco for several years before signing up for culinary school in France and moving to Paris.
Wow.
When I was 21.
And then came back to Houston.
And then came back to Houston and about 7 years later in 2008 to open our Americas location in the Woodlands.
Yeah, I was looking at the list of the ones that you've opened. I've been to all of them.
Oh, thank you.
I've eaten at every one of them. Yeah. The one that I think there might have been only one, but it was the Amazon Grill.
Yeah, we had well, three Amazon Grill locations overall. The first one was behind the original Americas in the Saks Pavilion.
Oh, that's right. That's right. And then
It was
the
a
Kirby.
Cafe Express. That was a really cool location. Then we opened Kirby in the village, like Kirby and Bissonnet. And the third location was West Chase area, like Gester and Westheimer.
That's where, well, that's where that Churrasco's, near where that Churrasco's
was,
took over
yes.
on the border.
Mhm.
When my children were younger, we would, to get them to go to church, I'd say, we'll go to Amazon Grill. So-
It was definitely a place, it was definitely designed for families, definitely designed for kids. But also with parents in mind that could have a mojito, or mom could have a Chardonnay with her salad. It was a concept that was definitely had families in mind.
You told us about the name. I think that's great. And I guess the question that I would like to kind of move to now is you're opening a restaurant in a unique period of time in the city, the state, and the United States of America. And I'd like for you just to kind of talk to maybe some of the other restaurant owners and operators that are listening, that are what have been your challenges. You spoke earlier about thinking out of the box. That was mainly for staffing, but it's probably for a lot of components of opening a restaurant. But if you could just kind of elaborate on some of the challenges and successes you've had so far, because what's your opening, your schedule open? Do you have one?
Some. The largest challenge that we've had is we're going into a building that's almost 100 years old. It was the original Sears building in Midtown. So there's a lot of discovery when you are renovating a space like that.
Asbestos?
No asbestos. I mean, it was Gil Bain, the architect, and Gensler did a great job of maintaining the history of the space, but also stripping it down to its core, which was a very strong and good core. It just wasn't ready for food and beverage. It was just it was made for retail, and didn't necessarily have the infrastructure to support that. So that's been the biggest challenge. We haven't really, when we started the project, wood was a big issue. That's not really the case anymore in terms of material. Right now, it's lead times that we have to be very cautious of. We're sourcing equipment and product a lot more locally, less material from overseas, and it's not even that the material isn't available. It's the shipping containers, from what I'm that make it really difficult to get product in from overseas. But those really haven't been the biggest hurdles. The largest hurdles have been the surprises that have come with a building that has such a fantastic history, but that is a historical building.
A lot of the plumbing and the MEPs and everything in the concretes that because it wasn't built for restaurants. It was
we're having to put it all in there, and at every stage there's surprises.
Yeah. You know what? There always is. So, but the local vendors are all responding, and the trades that are working on the. I mean, you've been pretty.
I couldn't be happier with the team that we brought together. We got CNT Design doing our kitchen, Gin Design doing our interior design. LH2 is our architect. Our engineers have been really good and really flexible and rolling with the punches as these surprises have come, and they're every day. They're actually meeting as we speak.
Your set of stories sound like more successful than a lot of the operators we talked to. It's just it was mostly unavailable. It was the shipping and unavailable material.
I think because of the delays from the building, we've had the benefit of foresight and of seeing the struggles that other people have had before us. And, my vendors have given me fair warning, like, hey, we need to order the walk-in today. It's because it's 5 months out. We need to order this now because we're looking at importing product and things are taking 3-4 months. So I'm dealing with real professionals, which I'm really grateful for.
That's great. Yeah, I learned lead time when I was running restaurants in Hawaii.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, because everything was shipped in. Yeah.
Now, where are you when it comes to menu? Are you started the process, or where are we going with menu development for this?
Yeah, so obviously that being my area, I jumped right in, 3-4 months before we signed the lease, and kept doing revisions and drafts and testing. Catering allows me to put a lot of the product in front of people, which is great. We get to do kind of a little mini pop-up of our menu every event that we do. We've whittled it down into something that I think is really focused and concise, which makes me feel good. We're about a 20-item menu. I really like the feel and read of wine bar menus, where you don't necessarily have an appetizer section, a big salad section, entree section. Everything kind of is progressive, and you can kind of jump and play around. The idea is for guests to be able to enjoy probably 2 to 3 plates per person. If you have a group of 4, you can get up to like 6-7 plates. So it's a very dynamic experience that you can customize. The same with the wine list. We have about a 30 item wine list that's really tight, concise, but you can try most of them by the glass, so you can kind of jump around and customize. And then we have a real focus on cocktails and especially barrel-aged spirits. So we have about a 15-item cocktail list with an emphasis on bourbon, on aged rum, tequilas, and mezcal. It's going to be a very vibrant place, very fun, vibrant place. Open kitchen, bar is the focal point. We're putting in a stage for jazz and live music, which has always been a passion of mine. So we really want it to be this kind of nucleus for the building and for the entire Ion district, as a meeting place, a gathering place, a very social place, with a lot of good energy.
Open sooner. I'm hungry.
Yeah.
So how would you describe to a guest on the phone if they say, what kind of food do you serve?
So we're still paying a lot of tribute to our Latin roots. But what a lot of people don't know about the food that we did at Churrasco's in Americas was that it really at its core was French cuisine with Latin American ingredients. So you might see a little bit more of that French influence, as well as the Mediterranean, that has just been part of the way we've eaten as a family for a long time, not just because of the Druby family. I happen to marry into a Mexican Lebanese family also. So, in order to really produce and create great food, it has to be truly and authentically what you are into. It has to be what you're passionate about serving, cooking, and eating. And then this just happens to be, the story of our family now. After 40 years in the city of Houston, we get to kind of tell our story, not just of where we came from, but our story here within the city. But the simple answer is we're doing Latin and Mediterranean cuisine.
South American and Lebanese influence and French.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's Latin and Mediterranean kind of encompass all that.
Lunch and dinner, 7 days.
We're doing lunch and dinner, brunch on the weekends. Open 11 to 11 p.m. and then a little bit later on the weekends. We have, some great tenants in the building, so lunch is a no-brainer, and we're really leaning in on the to-go aspect of it to be able to service people in the building and the neighborhood. We doing some cool things with packaging and customizing little Happy Meal lunchbox type orders that are easy to transport and easy to deliver.
Some of that because of the pandemic and what we went through. Has that shown you that you just need to really focus on a little bit more on to go?
Yeah, I think we would have done it regardless, being in a building that has office tenants. It's just, you have a captive audience and clientele to deliver to, but the amount of volume in to go as a segment in general, you have to lean into it. It's just a part of operating a restaurant. It's a revenue source that used to be an afterthought. Now it has to be built in from the get-go.
You're right. I think it's here. I've seen so many.
That's not going away.
No, I've seen so many restaurants. There was a wall there. Now there's a drive-through window. Which is great. I mean, if you lay the money that you invest to the money that the income, that's the revenue stream that's potential there, it's a good decision.
If only every restaurant location had a drive-through option, I think that would be wonderful.
And where you are, the area that you are, it has a very good mix of residential and business, right?
Even though the neighborhood is kind of in a transitioning phase, the location is unbelievable. I think it's a part of town that most people drive by at least once a day without thinking much about it. You have, the Museum District, the Med Center, Midtown, Montrose, River Oaks, the East End. There's so many neighborhoods and great neighborhoods that kind of intersect right there at 59 and Main. It couldn't be better in that regard.
Yeah. There's a lot of movement in that area, and that was pretty smart, the developers. I kind of wanted to just a question that I remember this. I didn't really pay as much attention as I wish I had of, but I remember when you were part of the Ola Houston, and you were the ambassador, the food ambassador that went to Mexico.
Yeah.
City tour. Could you just talk a little bit about that, if not for anybody else, but for me, because I thought it was just such a great idea.
That was one of the coolest experiences of my life. So Visit Houston put together this program called Ola Houston to promote tourism from Mexico to Houston. So myself, Gonzo, a local street artist, and about 3 other influencers from Mexico that were very familiar with Houston. We got to do like a 5-city tour in 1 year in 2016, doing pop-up restaurants, art events, cooking demonstrations, and really just promoting Houston, promoting our city and everything it had to offer, making people from Mexico think of Houston in a slightly different way, that we weren't just, NASA and the Galleria or the rodeo, but that we were really a super culturally rich community. That was something that wasn't really talked about very much outside of people in the know in the city, especially in restaurant circles. So it was as a Houston native, it was kind of honorable, a lifetime and amazing experience for me too, because I got to take in a lot of Mexico, and I ended up marrying a girl from Mexico City a few years later. So
that you met on the tour?
No, we grew up together, and we're good family friends. We just happened to start dating at the same time.
Who was the host organization in Mexico?
It was all coordinated from Houston.
Okay, all right.
It was all coordinated from Houston. A really talented PR coordinator named Maria Dorman. Now she was with Public Content and just started her own agency called the 1%. So there's a plug for Maria. She was the one that set us up with all the chefs, the hotels, the restaurants that we were going to be cooking at. Huge undertaking, landing into cities where you didn't know what product you were going to have, didn't know what you could bring, that you could.
Oh, that's right. You had to go shopping.
Yeah, it was like an episode of Top Chef in every city. Like, what can we do and what can we get away with? Some of it was like hiding stuff in my luggage, praying customs wouldn't take it away.
And they haven't done anything like that since then, have it? Well, I do know that there's a lot of Mexican operators that will open in Mexico. And then the next place they want to go is McAllen, Laredo, or Houston.
Yeah.
With their next, their next venture. And I've worked with a lot of them, with several, with Chris Tripoli and a la carte throughout the years.
It's incredible the amount of Mexican nationals in the Woodlands. Also, there's a really strong community there that are very proud of living here, but also very proud of being Mexican. So there's a lot of love between the two cities, between Mexico City and Houston specifically.
They have a real strong. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like the TRA or like the NRA.
Okay.
They have a strong organization in Mexico City, and I've worked with some of them with contacts. Yeah, it's
Mexican cuisine and culture is such a beautiful and sophisticated thing. It's amazing how it's always been here, but how new it is to so many people as well. Because people write off Tex-Mex as, oh, we know Mexican food. There's so much deeper to go.
Yeah.
When you get into the regions, and some of the history, there's so much to learn. It's so rich.
Like if you go to Italy, it's not spaghetti and pizza.
and eating in Piemonte and eating in Sicily are completely different things.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's fun when you get micro-regional.
We've talked about some of these problems that's been going on. What solutions have you found? Supply chain, hiring, all of the aspects that are going on with the restaurant these days.
Flexibility. I say that in an oversimplified way, but I mean it. I really think, even as I was talking to you about the menu, I have purposely designed something that items are easily swapped out and replaceable. So actually, what I did with the menu was, instead of writing out a list of dishes, I created a template that was almost like fill in the blank, right? Like this is your pasta dish. This is your, cold raw seafood item. This is your fried item, so that in case there was issues with procurement, in case there was issues, we could pivot and flex and knew that we had a hole to fill. The same with materials in our space, having that openness and that flexibility where, well, okay, we can't really do this mill work. What kind of tile will work? We can't get that tile. We're gonna have to paint it. Okay, I've engaged a lot of artists on this project because of that. Because using local talent is going to always be there, right? Mm-hmm. So that flexibility and really looking locally for a lot of the material. I also say flexibility because when you look at the Great Resignation, when you look at people leaving the hospitality industry in the numbers that they are, the way I see it is, why did people get into hospitality in the first place? And the answer usually is flexibility. People get into this industry because they're working at a restaurant while they're getting a degree. They're working at a restaurant while they're building their own business. They're working at a restaurant as a stepping stone to something else, usually not as a final destination, right? So instead of running away from that, I think there's an opportunity for us to lean into that. And what is it that we can offer as owners, as managers, as operators, to really give people the flexibility that made the industry so attractive in the first place? There's a reason why Uber drivers abound because they have incredible flexibility. They can, at any moment during the day, they can flip a switch and say, I'm working. You know, so that's one area in which I'm, kind of exploring. And I have some ideas that are going to have to be tested out. I'm working with and talking to a hotel operator in Austin whose management team works like nurse shifts. So they work 3 long days, 12-hour days, and then they're off for 4 days. And then someone else comes in, works, gives their all for 3 strong days, and then they're off for 4 days. So it's that kind of I think shift in mentality, and that's compensation is one thing that obviously needs to be improved in our industry. I think people have been underpaying for their food, and as a result, staff in our industry hasn't been properly compensated. But money isn't the only thing of value. Time is another currency, right? And if you can give someone freedom, if you give someone time, that's another form of compensation. And those are some of the gaps that I think our industry needs to fill to kind of fix this problem that we're in.
You are right on the money there. You said that our food is, you didn't say undervalued, underpriced. Cheesecake factories raising their prices across the board. And I think I read there's 6 different fast food chains that are going to raise their prices. Because as you said, the restaurant owner operator, just takes the hits of all the price increases with meats and, and produce and, just all the dry goods, but we hardly ever go up on our prices.
We don't. We think the customer can't handle it, and we'll go somewhere else. The other thought, and this was one from my dad from years ago. He always said, why is it that airlines can charge a different price for a seat during peak season, and restaurants can't charge a different price for the seat on a Friday or Saturday night? I mean, that makes all the sense in the world, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, you consider the guy next to you, and he paid $400 for his ticket, and you paid $800.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Flex.
I don't know if a restaurant can get away with that, but.
Well, if it's Valentine's Day, you should.
Yeah.
If it's Mother's Day, if it's a Saturday night, should your burger be a different price than if it's Monday at 4 o'clock? Makes all the sense to me.
Yeah, like the Valentine's Day or Mother's Day or something. If you come in and do a fixed menu, then it wouldn't be anything wrong with going up on the prices above what your regular menu is. Or I know there's been some restaurants that have done that.
I think just like staff wants flexibility, consumers want flexibility as well. You also kind of want to be able to choose your commitment level and your experience. And I want to be able to I don't necessarily like being forced to have $120 fixed price menu at a restaurant. I was just planning on having an appetizer at.
So you're opening in the summer, the Limbard. What's the address?
4201 Main. It's the old Sears building in Midtown. If you haven't been there, you need to drive by. It's incredible what they've done to the building and to the site.
Are you just going to open? Or are you going to have a grand opening? Probably a soft opening, or just figure it out as it goes?
We have a grand opening date, but it's becoming a moving target.
Got it. Yeah.
As I'm sure you understand.
Yeah.
But yeah, there will be a party with some live music, some jazz, some great food, some cocktails. Can't wait for the city to see our space.
I'm excited about it. Yes, I am. The jazz is exciting too. Along with everything else that went away during the pandemic, live music went away in restaurants.
Yeah.
I remember a couple of them, they put them out away from everybody in the parking lot.
I fell in love with jazz, when I worked in Paris, I lived in the left bank, and I was working 3 jobs. If I wasn't in the kitchen, I was at a underground smoky jazz place, because it was some of the best jazz in the world is there. And I found it here in Houston at Cezanne's in Montrose, that had an incredible jazz program, and we're hoping to pluck a little bit of that magic and plug it into the Limbard.
Oh, that'll be great. Okay, before we let you go, let me ask you this. You mentioned in the beginning that you were in a band. What did you play, and what type of music did your band play?
I played guitar and lead vocals. We played a combination of blues and funk, primarily. I grew up in the era of jam bands with like Dave Matthews Band and Fish, and it was a little bit along those lines. But it was, some of the best years. I was 15, and my dad would drive us around to different venues in town where we would play. So we started young.
So on the Sunday jazz brunch or something, will you hop up on the stage with the band?
Absolutely not. I'm not going to be that guy. I'll stick to what I do.
And you do it well. I love your food. Love their whole family's food. Well, we certainly appreciate your time. Wish you all the luck with your catering as it continues to grow, and with Limbard. I know we're working with you on Limbard, and so I'll be talking to you again. But we really do appreciate your time, and have a great weekend.
Hey, thank you so much. I can't wait to come out to Houston and come check it out.
Thanks, Gary. Really enjoyed talking to you.
Okay, this is the Recruiter Guys signing off. We've been talking hospitality with David Cordua, and we'll see you all next time.